There are many artists in the Pokemon TCG, and it's my goal to cover as many as I can, so I can help you, the viewer, determine who you should start collecting for your collection. Whether it be expensive or inexpensive, as long as it makes you happy, that's all that matters to me. Recently, my channel's been on a roll, so if you enjoy the content, make sure you leave a like on the video, and let me know in the comments who you'd like to see reviewed next. In this video, we'll be covering the artist Taira Akisu, who started illustrating cards in the set Sword and Shield base set, which was released February 7th, 2020, and has illustrated 58 cards. Something that I find really entertaining about Taira Akisu's cards is how full of life they are, and I think that a lot of artists' cards are filled with life, don't get me wrong, but I think Akitsu really makes you feel like you are in the shoes of the Pokemon, either living through their daily life, or just showing you the briefest moments of their lives. For this video, these will be the criteria that I have in place: colors, poses, and trainers. For my first criteria, I'll be talking about the colors of Akitsu's cards. Let's take a card that's just filled with color, the Manaphy from Crown Zenith. This card should be a simple one to cover. It's just blue, right? Well, not quite. There are many aspects of this card that add to the color. First of all, look at how many Pokemon are in this card. All the different Pokemon all have different colors, adding this subtle color to the card, but the Pick-a-Peck in specific adds a nice little hint of red on the card. The water sort of expands around the Manaphy, creating this ripple effect that becomes the white the closer to the edges of the card they are, which I think looks super dope. The flora underneath the water also adds to the aforementioned color, but the best part is that none of it in the card is overdone. The colors are simplified to the point that it's seriously easy on the eyes, but they're complicated enough to insinuate depth, which is a really hard balance to strike. I feel like Akitsu did a really good job with this illustration. Our next card for this criteria will be the Mienshao illustration rare from Paradox Rift. I think that this illustration is phenomenal. The colors are so subtle. The purple in the background encapsulates all of those trees and bushes in the background, which is a nice contrast to the green leaves in the foreground. The color white is a very influential color in this illustration, which seeps in from the bottom of the card, creating this almost painting-like effect. The Pokemon itself looks really majestic as well, and the colors accentuate it from the area around it, as it feels a little less muted than the area around it. I think that this card is also a really good example of how Akitsu can use colors in their cards. So simple, but also containing so much depth that it's really impressive to look at closely. Next, I wanted to talk about how awesome Akitsu is making the Pokemon they illustrate go into these awesome poses that really make the Pokemon feel alive. For a shining and glowing example of my point, let's look at another Mienshao, but this is going to be the one from Battle Styles. Want to know something absolutely phenomenal about this card that I literally just noticed right now? Pretty sure that this is the same scenery as the previous Mienshao card that we just talked about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that either way, it's a similar-ish looking card. But where the illustration rare looked a little sleepy mid-kick, this one looks ready for battle. One leg firmly planted on the branch, and the other one raised in the air in a kicking position, with its neck extended outwards, bending, and its arms spread out wide. The Pokemon looks as though it's piercing through the card, and it's incredible that the effects just look so good for a Pokemon to look as flowy like Mienshao. They definitely did this Pokemon justice. Let's look at another card from the Sword and Shield era, the Vulpix from Sword and Shield base set. Now, some may be thinking, how does this card really have anything to do with the whole posing part of the video? Well, I'm here to answer that question. I think that the reserved little steps of the Pokemon Vulpix really prove to us, the enjoyer of the artwork, just how careful this Pokemon is. It shows intrigue, and a care that this Pokemon puts into its every step. I think that the environment justifies this idea, with the thin brick walls that the Pokemon is climbing all over. It would only make sense that a Pokemon would be careful in an area like this. The card is not only cute, but also gives this environmental storytelling not only from the background, but also just the pose of the lovable Pokemon. For our next criteria, we have the amazing trainer cards that Akitsu has produced for the TCG. I think this is where they go most of the time, as a lot of their illustrations are trainer cards. I could totally see why though. Firstly, let's take a look at Zinnia's Resolve full art from Evolving Skies. This full art is seriously awesome. I really love the trainer's expression as she holds up her Pokeball in her fingertips in a battle-ready pose. I like how you can really tell that the wind is blowing her cape-like thing around her neck around. It makes the card have this really nice sense of flow, even if the trainer is simply standing still. The background with those nice patches of grass with the water all around it looks really nice as well. It's a nice eye-catching trainer card, which is the ideal way to do it, in my opinion. Next, the Adventure's Discovery from Lost Origin is also a really nice illustration. It takes the idea of somebody searching for treasure and builds the illustration around that. I think the idea of someone who sort of looks like an archaeologist finding what could only be assumed to be some kind of ancient artifact is a really cool idea. The lily pads with those raised stone pillars in the background really add to that ancient kind of city sort of feeling, And the adventurer herself looks ready for whatever could be next, with the Pokeballs at her side, and the canteen as well. I think that the trainer's design mixed with the idea of the card combined to make this really appealing full art trainer. And now, I'll cover my top 5 personal favorite cards from Taira Akisu. So here we go, in no particular order. My first card would be the Kingdra from Astral Radiance. I think that the colors on this card are astounding. That autumny vibe with the deep blue Pokemon gliding through the water has this really awesome effect. And having Claire hold onto the Pokemon like that makes you assume that this Kingdra is going incredibly quickly, and the water splashing everywhere really amplifies that point. I think that everything about this card adds up to make a really gorgeous illustration of a very majestic Pokemon. Next, I have the Garchomp V from Astral Radiance. This card is iconic. I think that Cynthia on this card is perfect size. She looks small, but not so small so it seems comical. I think that Garchomp in this card looks like Cynthia's stoic protector, which is the perfect way to portray this Pokemon. I always thought that Cynthia was sitting on Garchomp's lap or something, but it looks like they're just sitting on the same rock in different positions, which is still a really cool idea. That starry background is also gorgeous, with the light to dark blue sky and stars all over the place. The white part in the middle is also really amazing. I'd have to say that the Manaphy from Crown Zenith would be next. The colors, as I said before, are also subtle but just breathtaking. I love how many Pokemon are in this card. It makes the world feel so alive, with these different species of Pokemon inhabiting the area. And a small emphasis on this little legendary Pokemon is the perfect way to depict the Pokemon in my opinion. I think this card is just an adorable card that really fits in a set like Crown Zenith that really appreciates every single Pokemon, not just one or two. Then, we have the Mienshao from Paradox Rift. This illustration rare is just so fire. I really love the pose of the Pokemon, mixed with that background. It's so eye-catching, and the environment around the Pokemon is really captivating but also simple. It makes the quiet, sleepy Pokemon fit the card perfectly. I think this is a top-tier illustration rare from the Scarlet and Violet era. That's often how I feel about artists that I recently review. I gain a new appreciation for their cards. But either way, I think this card really is underrated, as well as gorgeous. Finally, for Akitsu, I have the brand new Vaporeon from Terrestrial Festival. I think that the definition of this card is so high quality, and I'm sure that that's due to Akitsu's artwork improving over time, as this card looks so high resolution. Not only that, I love all the little bubbles around the Vaporeon, and the shock and awe on its face is a really nice touch as well. The sparkles around, and the fact that it's standing in a little puddle is just such a cute touch. The perspective of this card is also really nice. Overall, this is a really great illustration of a really great Pokemon. And that was Taira Akisu. Honestly, this is an artist who I've always appreciated and loved the cards of, but just never got the chance to take a deeper look into their artwork. There are so many stunning cards under Akitsu's name. Hopefully they continue their work into the Pokemon TCG for time and time to come. Hopefully, you all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.